To all the doomsday sayers who've been calling for a Toronto housing market crash, you may have gotten your wish, though it may not look exactly like you'd hope, because basically it already happened. Because detached and semi detached homes are down nearly 27% from the peak in 2022, which constitutes a pretty significant decline. Is it over? Maybe, maybe not. And depending on what type of home you own or are looking at, this reset that we're looking at could differ greatly. So, if you're a buyer trying to time the bottom or a seller trying to figure out if it's safe to list, this update will help you understand exactly where the market stands heading into the fall and winter 2025. My name is Morgan Little. I'm a realtor here in the GTA, and I make these videos every month just to help you make better decisions. Now, let's get into it. Go Jays. This is your Toronto housing market update, talking about the stats from September 2025, now that we're in October. So, what is actually happening right now? Well, in September 2025, the average GTA home price dropped to just over 1.05 million. That is the lowest point we've seen in 3 years. At the same time, sales were actually up 8.5% compared to last September, which tells us that lower borrowing costs from the recent Bank of Canada rate cuts are starting to bring some buyers back finally. And we are potentially expecting another rate cut here in October. So, prices down, sales up. That means the market is starting to stabilize, right? Well, maybe. Let's keep a look. Let's take a look and keep going. As you can see, sales are rising, but inventory is still high. The current market dynamics reveal an interesting paradox. Sales activity is increasing while inventory levels remain elevated, which I think is a natural progression of the way things have gone, because there was no doubt that we had building up inventory. And so once buyers do start to come back ever so slowly, there's going to be that, mix of sales starting to pick up a little bit, but still having a ton of active listings. So buyers still have significantly more choice than they've had probably in anyone, most people that can remember's history here. Properties are taking longer to sell than they were during the peak market, obviously averaging 39 days on market. Whereas, during the peak, they were looking at, a couple days maybe. The extended timeline gives buyers more negotiating power and time to conduct, thorough due diligence. You can have inspections. I have a bunch of properties that we put offers on conditional on sale of property. So that is very common these days, something that was unheard of in recent years. Condos obviously dominate the available inventory, representing more than half of all active listings. Concentration reflects both new construction completions and investor-owned units entering the market. That doesn't seem to be slowing down whatsoever. But on the flip side of that, we are seeing less builds happening across the board. So in the coming years, with all these builds not happening, are we going to see a shortage of homes again, which I know was the narrative for a long time, and now there's an overabundance of homes seemingly. Affordable homes are the ones that are quote unquote hard to come by these days. So we will have to monitor that to see how it continues. Prices do differ by property type greatly, especially in Toronto. You have detached homes that are 1.49 million. It's down almost 6% year over year. The largest segment by price continues to see steady demand from families seeking space and privacy in established neighborhoods. So there are still buyers out there who are purchasing these properties. Townhomes have come down to under $1 million, under 950, down 3.5% year over year. They are the most resilient property type because they're just the most attractive entry point for people. Those people who can't afford that $1.5 million home may be able to get into a townhouse for under $1 million. And then you have condos still at 655, which feels like they should be a lot lower than that at this point, down another 4% year over year, facing the most pressure from oversupply and rising carrying costs. Sellers are still being stubborn with their condos. Those that can hold on are holding on. That's, I'm sure, will continue. Like I said, we're not going to see any drastic increase in condo sellers in the near future, I don't imagine. So what is fueling the rate shift? Well, multiple forces, as always. There's never just one thing happening at once, but So, one being Bank of Canada rate cuts. The recent rate reductions have improved affordability somewhat and rekindled some buyer interest. Lower borrowing costs mean higher purchasing power, with each quarter point cut translating to some savings, on your monthly mortgage payments. So, if that continues and if this next cut continues, are we going to see two more? We'll see. And is that going to really spur buyers back? Because it doesn't have a huge impact, but it is having a trickling effect apparently. Buyers are still being cautious though. They remain careful and selective, and like I said, they have that option to do that right now. And investor uncertainty is massive right now. There's no demand in the condo market for the retail investor buying that type of property. So that probably will continue on, like I said. So what does it mean going into the fall and winter? Well, the fall market is showing early signs of life, but not enough to declare a turnaround by any means. With higher inventory and longer days on market, buyers still have leverage for now. But if rate cuts continue and inventory starts to thin out, the pendulum could start to swing back towards more of a balanced market moving into 2026. We don't have high hopes for any drastic change over the next coming months into the next year, through the next year. I think we're going to see a lot of stagnation, but I don't know that we're going to necessarily see things continue to just bottom out like this. Is the bottom in? Good question. In terms of sales volume, maybe, as we've seen this uptick now, but this may be a short-lived fall season as we move towards Christmas. In terms of price, we still might have a little more room to fall, especially for condos. If you're wondering how these numbers affect your buying and selling plans, or what you think your home might be worth in this kind of market, having a home eval is a great place to start. Happy to help if I can do that. Until then, I'll see you on the next video.